in, ladies and gentlemen, to MBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome into the Film Guy Network on a marvelous Monday evening. Look, here's the deal. Clear it out. We finna ISO ball with Brooks. It's been 10 days since I've been in front of a microphone and a camera, and I got to unload some takes. This is going to be like when you let your dog out of the cage at home for the first time in like 7 hours, and they just run around like a chicken with their head cut off, super excited to see you at home. It's about what you're going to get. What you're about to get is like watching Eric Badlands Booker at an all-you-can-eat buffet. And I know some of you are going to have to Google that joke, but that's the kind of eating that I'm finna do. I'm finna get after it right here. I've been driving around all around this state for about 3 weeks, just cultivating, just building, shaping, and molding these takes that I'm about to unload on you. So I'm glad that you guys are here with me, but I'm more happy to be right here in front of this microphone and this camera than I've probably been in a long, long time. And I also have way too much caffeine in me. So by the end of this, I would imagine 30-minute rant that I'm about to unload. The tone might sound really, really bad because the topic at the end of this really, really infuriates me, and it's to deal with the media. So we're going to close this 30-minute, 35, 40-minute rant, however long it's going to take, with that. So make sure you're here for that, because by the time I get there, I'm going to be pretty ticked off. So let's get after it. We got topics for days to be going after right here, all right? First and foremost, Cormani McClain, former five-star, commits to Florida. Now, this is after coming off his exit from Colorado, an exit in which apparently they could not get him to practice very hard, they could not get him to work out very hard, and they could not get him really to go to class when they needed him to do it. Basically, Cormani McClain was too much of a problem, despite the fact that he is uber talented, or was uber talented, or has the ability to be uber talented. Despite all of that, he was too much of a problem for Deion Sanders, or at least too much of a distraction for Deion Sanders, right? Too much of a hassle. Now he's going to Florida. And look, I got to be honest, I think this is a really, really good move for Florida. I think it's a good move for Cormani McClain. Florida has a very obvious need, not only for talent across all of the roster, but also at the cornerback position. You had a need, and by the way, you also have a need at Florida right now to kind of gamble on upside. Like when you're not one of the top 3 or 4 rosters in the sport, when you're actually like pretty far from that on the field, at least your recruiting is decent, but on the field talent wise, you're like way down the ranks in terms of most talented. So you kind of have to take these gambles on upside at all, not at all times, but every once in a while, calculated risk, if you will. But here's where Florida's. I could come on here and say it's a great match for everybody, and it is. I think it's good news for both parties, like I just said. But Florida gonna Florida. This coaching staff is going to do what this coaching staff does. We can't just have hey, Cormani McClain, former five-star, going to get a new opportunity at Florida, in his home state. We can't just have that story. Billy and his staff got to go out there and leak it to the media. Hey, not only did we win this really highly contested recruitment battle between ourselves, South Florida, and Memphis, not only did we win that highly touted recruiting battle, we got this joker to walk on. Hell yeah. Because not only are we quote unquote pinned up on the scholarship limit, but we don't want you folks thinking we're out here wasting a scholarship offer on somebody that was probably going to end up at South Florida or Memphis, like I just told you, if we don't take him, right? That's right. Not only is he walking on here, but we're quote unquote pinned up on the scholarship limit. That's what they tell the media. Media goes out there, does all kind of interviews about Cormani coming to Florida, talk about, hey, he's just walking on, because they're pinned up on the 85, as if the 85 exists, as if the hard cap 85 exists out here right nowadays, right? So why tell this to people? I'm just curious. What did Florida win? What did this do for them, other than maybe win a small portion of percentage of their fan base's appeal, right? The public relations of, hey, we got a former five-star to walk on here. That's good news, right? That's all great news, except it doesn't really exist. In fact, if I were to ask you right now, how many people in the chat really believe Cormani McClain's out here paying tuition. No, you don't believe that. If you do, right? Little bit naive. I certainly don't believe that Cormani McClain's out here paying tuition, right? And here's the other thing. They're obviously not pinned up on the scholarship limit. They took a wide receiver from Arizona State 48 hours later. 48 hours later, had a guy come in and commit. Am I to presume he's walking on as well? No, that wasn't leaked to the media. Well, here's the other one I heard from Florida fans in my mentions. Well, maybe they knew that this Arizona State transfer was coming in and is counting on the 85 before Cormani McClain decided to announce that he was walking on. I mean, yeah, we could walk around in that life if you want to, or we could just walk around with the idea and the precipice that this was probably a little side note leaked out to the media in hopes that, again, you are going to gain some type of percentage points in the polls, if you will, the metaphorical polls, in your fan base's a court of opinion. Okay. But I'm here to tell you, the number don't exist, right? The 85 scholarship does not exist. NIL scholarships are real. We'll talk about those here in just a second. And B, again, they took another transfer from Arizona State within 48 hours of telling the world that they're pinned up on the scholarship limit and that they were taking a former 5-star via walk-on. We all know scholarship limits don't exist. There is zero win. There is zero win in telling the media that Cormani McClain walked on, right? Great. You got him to walk on. But for just once, man, just be quiet. Just be quiet. There's no point in talking about it. You don't hear Hugh Freeze out here talking about the 35 guys he's got walking on. Because if you look at Auburn's roster right now, they got about 105 quote-unquote scholarship guys. You think the 4-star from 2021 still not on scholarship? You think he's on the roster and he paying tuition? No, he is not. We've talked about this ad nauseum on this channel, right? Do you want to know why our next topic, which is a hardened cap on 85 scholarship limits, quote unquote, no more walk-ons? Do you know why this rule is suddenly getting proposed? Because all these guys are running rampant on NIL scholarships. They're all going rampant on NIL scholarships. They are real. What is an NIL scholarship? Well, you come to a player and you say, hey, son, don't worry. Never going to have to pay tuition, ever. Like, yeah, you're going to physically have to go pay it, but the money's not going to be yours. We're going to put the money in your account via a name, image, and likeness deal that you're going to sign. It will cover all of your tuition, all good. Don't have to worry about it. And matter of fact, your NIL budget might be a little bit higher than even your tuition budget, because then we can still get some cash in your pocket while not having to worry about whether or not you're paying for school. This is 100% real. I told you about this months ago, right? We came on this channel and we started looking like, damn, the SEC is way over the limit. Everywhere I look, Auburn over 100. LSU at 98. Alabama a little bit over despite all the turnover that they've had, right? LSU, I think I already mentioned them, drastically over. Texas A&M over. Everybody over this mythical 85 scholarship limit, right? So now we got this new rule. It's proposed, right? And I always laugh when these rules get proposed because I know why they're being proposed. Somebody out here bitching, moaning, and complaining about how they only have 85 scholarships and they look at the SEC and they got 12 rosters with 100 guys on it. How's that possible? How's that fair? It's not. So we need to make a hard cap, NCAA president. We need to make a new rule. No more walk-ons. That's kind of goofy. Why not just do this? Hear me out. Why not just get rid of this illegal pay-for-play stuff that y'all out here doing? Why not really base it off of name, image, and likeness, marketable value, right? Actual marketable deals. Then you won't have to worry about some booster putting 35 grand in somebody's bank account just to cover tuition. We won't have to worry about that. It'll all be sanctioned. But nah, we can't do that. Can't do that at all, right? I will tell you this. If this actually happens, if this 85 scholarship limit is actually enacted, this won't necessarily hurt good football teams, because I'm here to tell you, 85 dudes is still it's not way too many. It's still enough, right? Those are scholarship guys too deep on both sides of the football. It's 44 players on offense, 44 players on defense. That's 88. I know my math ain't mathing quite yet.
Don't forget the one kicker.
Don't forget about the one kicker. Plenty of scholarship limit for winnable, high-quality football, particularly in the Power Four. However, limiting the roster limits and containing these roster sizes will 100% impact the product down the line. Okay, because I'm telling you right now, if you decrease my roster size, if you decrease my depth, guess what we're not going to be doing? We're not going to be practicing near as hard with 85 guys on my roster as we would with 125 guys on my roster. Everybody understands that, right? So the quality of football will decrease because I'm telling you, they practice hard in college. They don't practice hard in the NFL. You know why? Because they only got 53 guys available. So they can't be out here banging heads on a Tuesday when they got to play on Sunday with the roster that they have constituted currently. So in college, we can practice hard. In college, we can get better because if the third string tackle gets hurt, it's okay. The fourth string tackle is not that much worse than he is. So practice quality still remains really, really high. The walk-ons, however, again, are not the problem. The NIL scholarships are not the problem. Georgia will be at 92 scholarship guys this summer. They will be. They're at 85 right now. They got 6 high school kids and a 7th transfer coming in this summer. 85 plus 7 equals 92. The math ain't hard. It's right there in front of you. However, what they aren't out here telling the media and what we aren't out here running to our interviews telling everyone is that, yeah, there are NIL scholarships going on at Georgia. I just told you they're 7 over. They're not actually 7 over. The NCAA is not actually going to come down here because guess what? They're doing some of this stuff. Everyone's doing some of this stuff. In fact, I know names of some of the guys that are on them, but guess what we're not doing? We're not out here diming them out. You know why? Because there ain't no win in it. There is no win in Florida telling media members, we got the Joker to walk on. Yeah, you probably got 5 other guys walking on too. We just don't need to tell everybody. I just don't. It made no sense to me why we came out here and did this. Again, Auburn's going to be well over 100. That's the imbalance, right? The imbalance is the ability to get scholarship players on your roster without giving them scholarships because you're giving them NIL money, okay? Again, removing the walk-ons doesn't remove the issue. The issue will still exist. Pay for play is the issue. Remove that first, and you will remove the ability, okay, to wire transfer people money just for being there. It's not what this sport's made up to be doing, right? And even after all of this rules and regulations come down, even after House versus NCAA, which we're going to talk about here in just a second, even after all of this comes down, man, there's still going to be some bag dropping, if you will, some NIL play or pay for play still going out here. Y'all got rosters with 105 plus scholarship athletes. No wonder commitments are so few and far between. This is the other thing that I noticed while I was gone, guys. I'm going to these high schools, and I got coaches telling me, Coach, man, so-and-so got an offer from Tennessee, Missouri, South Carolina, so-and-so. SEC offers all over the place, but none of these schools are calling him for an on-campus visit this summer. None of these schools want him for an official. Well, Coach, why's he got an offer? My guess is as good as yours. They're telling us they don't have space, Brooks. Well, that's bullshit. Look at it. Every SEC school right now, fun fact, it is May 20th. We are 2/3 of the way done through May. We are less than 6 months from early National Signing Day, which we all know is National Signing Day. 98.9% of elite high school football prospects will have signed the name on the dotted line come December 16th, whenever the hell it is. Okay? We all know this. So the timetable has drastically moved up. However, go to 24/7 Sports right now. You will find out that in the SEC, there are only 2 teams. I believe it's Oklahoma and I want to say LSU. There are only 2 teams in this entire conference that have more than 10 commits. We're in May. We got 6 months till National Signing Day, and based off normal statistical averages, most of the SEC is only about 35 to 40% done with their recruiting. That's not normal. This time last year, Georgia had 28 guys. So what's going on? Why is this happening? Well, I got some theories for you. I got some theories as to why we're sitting here right now, and majority of high school prospects don't have a committed home. They still got to wait the last 6 months to find out where they're going to go. First and foremost, class sizes. Are they really going to be decreased? I told you a couple weeks ago, if this hard cap 85 was real and not bullshit, we would see very, very haste and quick roster management strategies. One of which might be to sign a really, really small high school class. So that is a very sound theory. Maybe they aren't signing as many high school kids because they know roster limits are going to start coming down the pipe. That's possible. Maybe we're seeing roster size limitations be impacted by the fact that a lot of these schools are doing some transfer portal recruiting, right? Not going to take 28 high school kids because you took 8 transfers. So maybe you only take 20 high school kids. That's a very solid theory. That makes sense. I can see that, particularly on the mid-major level. Got schools like UTEP taking 28 transfers and 2 high school kids. That makes sense. I understand that. As a solid theory as to why these classes are much smaller than they typically are. But here is my main theory, and here's why I think this is happening. And I think we're going to continue to see this happen, where maybe during the season or during the summer, we see a really, really heavy push to get these kids committed and then solidified throughout the college football season. And here's the theory. How can I forecast the money that I will have in December during May? Because that's the reality of what we're dealing with nowadays, right? We're talking about budgets nowadays, not just roster sizes. We're not talking about, hey, we have 26 spots for high school kids to come in. Let's figure out what 26 guys we want. That's certainly happening. However, what's also happening is, hey, we got 26 spots. Well, we got 35 guys that we like for those 26 spots. However, we don't know how much money we have to allocate for those 26 spots in May because that money in that payroll doesn't start until December. So what I wrote down in my notes is, how am I supposed to buy groceries for the winter during the summer months? I can't because I can't accurately forecast what it's actually going to cost me to reset my roster come December in May, even for high school players. Okay. Not to mention, we don't know how many guys are going to get disgruntled during the season. Who's going to come to my office and ask for a raise? Who's going to come to my office and say, hey, my name's Adonai Mitchell, and Texas just offered me a shit ton of money to come out there closer to home, middle of October. And by the way, I'm dealing with a high ankle sprain. How can I forecast that in May? I can't. So what do I have to do? I probably got to sit on my hands until I actually know what's going to happen come December. So I think that might be, and I don't think I know, talked to a couple recruiting departments during my run, okay, not only giving back some information and some intel on high school kids that I've seen that they want to know about, but also, hey, look, we'll give and take. This is what I think. What do you guys think about that? You might have a solid theory there, Brooksy. So there it is right there. Also, none of this really matters. We could talk about roster sizes. We could talk about real pay for play. We could talk about Florida being a bunch of dippies. We could talk about Cormani, McClain. None of this really matters because all of college football is about to explode, about to implode upon itself. And whatever you believe to be college football is probably not going to be the version that you're going to get very, very soon. Very, very soon. And I don't know if other people are talking about this, and I'm sure they are finally. But how long have we been talking about House versus NCAA, boys?
Feels like a couple months now.
Since the season?
Yeah.
Towards the end of the season, we started talking about this?
Yeah.
Started talking about, hey, this lawsuit, this is a big one because Congress isn't helping you. The government entirely is not helping you. So what you're basically going to have to do is go get your ass into a lawsuit and then have that lawsuit basically govern and set precedents for what you're ultimately going to look like moving forward. Bingo, bango, bongo, we have House versus NCAA. Now, House versus NCAA isn't actually supposed to start until, I think, next week. Mm-hmm. Okay? The actual court case has not started yet. However, it behooves both sides, maybe not the actual, plaintiffs, but it behooves the NCAA and all of its schools, all of its governing schools, to get this thing, what do you call it? Rectified, come to an agreement.
Resolved.
But there's a legal term for this.
Got the wrong guy.
Either way, it behooves the NCAA and its member schools to get this thing solidified and solved. We'll just settle with solved. I'm waiting for the chat to help me out here. Get it solved before it actually goes to court, because the thing about these retribution cases is right now the settlement looks to be about $2 billion. And if they were to lose that in court, it's 3x payout. So a $2 million resolution, a $2 billion resolution in court could actually make a payout of $6 billion. Because again, it's 3x in these particular cases. So the NCAA is working really, really hard to get this solidified before they go, or settled, before they go into court. So what is the actual settlement going to be? These are the early reports of this settlement. A settlement of $2.7 billion, okay, between the NCAA and its plaintiffs. 60% of that $2.7 billion, boys, will be paid out by the, quote, non-Power 4. And 40% of that $2.7 billion will be paid out by the Power Four. Now, when I first read that, I'm like, but the Power Four schools are the ones with the money. They're the ones who've kind of been Jimmy rigging all these athletes out of their money for all these years. Why are they paying the small end of this, whereas the 60% portion is being handled by the quote-unquote mid-major schools? Well, come to find out, there are 300 Division I, quote-unquote, non-Power Four schools, most of those playing Division I basketball, okay? There's only about 50 to 60 of those playing Division I football in the mid-major conferences. The other ones, okay, there's about 64 Power Four conferences. They're going to split up this 40% or this 40% of that $2.7 billion. Out of this resolution, there is apparently supposed to be NIL enforcement structure, which of course there is none now. That is not to say that name, image, and likeness will not exist post haste this settlement. However, it does mean finally there will be some governing body that watches it and pays attention to it and makes sure there's not literal pay for play going on. I would imagine they govern this to a point where they're actually making some type of marketable value or establishing marketable value off of players. In other words, Zaxby's, just because you love Georgia and your CEO went to Georgia, doesn't mean you're going to be allowed to pay JT Daniels $1.6 million to do one commercial and sit in a booth and take some photos. Got to actually have some return on investment on some of these things. I would imagine that's the whole point of the enforcement structure coming in, even though they haven't really told us what that enforcement structure is going to be like. Just promised us, hey, we're not going to let people run wild. Also, all of this is coming down to revenue sharing. They're trying to get some type of revenue share to athletes so we can put aside all of this name, image, and likeness and this pay for play. Reports right now are stipulating that there's going to be annual revenue split anywhere between $15 million and $25 million, again, annually, as a revenue split between players. However, this $15 to $25 million number is arbitrary to me. It's ancillary is the word. It's ancillary to me because this will be tied to a percentage stake of revenue split, which early indications are it's about 22%. Now, my question would be, Ohio State makes a whole hell of a lot more money than Kentucky. So are you paying out 22% of your annual revenue at Ohio State and 22% at Kentucky, meaning the players at Ohio State are making considerably larger amounts of money than the players at Kentucky? I don't know. They haven't told us that. They have told us that there will be some type of salary cap implemented, however. So we're getting to a collectively bargained sport here eventually. I meant to print this article out because I love some of these quotes. I really do love some of these quotes because, man, we really get to hear just how pissed off some of these presidents have been. Because I've told you, we are headed towards a new world order in college football, and it's not. Again, it is not the NCAA's fault. I feel like every time this story comes up, everybody's like, damn, the NCAA cost me my favorite sport. No, they didn't. The presidents of these universities did. Okay, the NCAA, I've told you this over and over again, is just a whipping boy for the presidents of college programs, particularly college football programs. NCAA president just does what he's told by all of these multi-quarter million-dollar businesses. Okay, they do what they're told. They argue for what they're told to argue for. They bargain for what they're told to bargain for. Again, the NCAA merely does what it is told to do by the presidents. And I'm going to tell you right now, the presidents of these universities, like, for example, Ohio State's president. Ohio State last year, boys, made $250 million, not $250,000, $250 million on football. That was the revenue reported by Ohio State. And guess what? They didn't have to give a dime of that to their football players. In fact, they didn't have to give a dime of that to their football players, and they turned around and looked at their boosters and said, hey, we need another $20 million to pay this roster. By the way, that $20 million probably going to go up to about 23 because we're keeping all of our draft-eligible seniors, and Caleb Downs is coming. Oh, by the way, y'all got money for Julian Sayin? These presidents don't want it to happen, so much so that I got a quote right here for you. Quote. Where is it at? I got to find it. Should have highlighted it. Here it is. This is UCF's athletic director. By the way, UCF, second largest public school in the country in terms of enrollment. They got money, honey. I'm telling you that right now. Check this one out. UCF's athletic director, Terry Mohajir, is how we're going to pronounce that. Quote, this national narrative has been hijacked that it's these poor guys and girls are getting taken advantage of. Right now, as it is today, with Alston payments, cost of attendance payments, and expenses in housing, our student athletes live like $100,000 employees in our organization because they have no expenses. They don't pay taxes on any of the extra money they get from Alston payments, academic awards, the cost of attendance, and medical expenses. This athletic director of one of the biggest public universities in the world is out here like, hey man, we ain't got to give them none of our revenue. We give them a place to live. We give them some food to eat. We pay for their tuition. God, he sounds like every Facebook commenter I've ever seen tweeting out about some NIL shit. It's over and over and over again. We see all of these presidents trying to protect their money, and then you guys go out on Twitter and you bitch, moan, and complain about the NCAA. It has nothing to do with those people. It has everything to do with really, 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 really rich and powerful presidents that don't want to give up their power. I got more. That makes no sense to me. It makes absolute no sense to me that we're out here acting like players are living $100,000 lives and not getting any money off of your multi-$100 million businesses. Piss off with that comment. Makes me angry. Doesn't make any sense. However, a guy that always gets shit on and kind of made some sense to me whilst being shit on, Dabo Swinney. This is new. This is very new for me. Didn't think I was going to be here today, but we are. He had some quotes. Quote, we had all transfers. They just transferred from high school. Shut up. You're just corny as hell. I'm with everybody else on that one. NIL, name, image, and likeness. His name, image, and likeness. That's some corny Dabo quote right there. This quote right here. Players in the portal aren't good enough to play here. That was the headline. And look, probably wrong, okay? Probably wrong. However, I don't think the headline took the whole quote, because here was the whole quote. Play it for him, J-Will.
There's three types of players in the portal. I mean, it's really pretty simple. Most of the guys in the portal aren't good enough to play for us.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of it. I mean, we have guys that are backups at Clemson that go in the portal because they just want to have an opportunity. And most of them are graduates, by the way, but we have guys that are backups, or they want a chance to go play, and I got no problem with that. And so rarely do we have a starter leave Clemson. You've got the majority of the guys. They're guys that are in the portal because they want to have a chance to go start somewhere. Mm-hmm. They're not playing where they are. They're not good enough to come in and play for us. And so we'd rather take a good high school player, as long as we can get them, which we do, and you develop them. That's the first type. The second type of guy that goes in the portal is he's only going in the portal as a formality because the deal's already been done. Mm-hmm. He knows where he's going before he ever goes in the portal. So we're not getting that guy. Mm-hmm. And then the third type of guy is going in the portal just to see what he can get. And we're never going to win that war. So, we've been really fortunate because, first of all, we're established, been there 16 years, mm-hmm. and we don't have a lot of attrition. I mean, we had 127 guys go through spring ball, and 125 are still on the roster, after spring, post-portal closing. So that's a miracle in today's world.
All right, so shout out to him. Said a lot of things there. First and foremost, my favorite thing about when coaches go to do these interviews is listening to Radio Guy just be the best hype man ever. Laughing at every joke, giggily, goofily.
Oh, he's making me go viral.
Oh, he said something. He said it. It reminds me of the first time I ever did a interview with Brock Vandegrift. And I was on Instagram with him because at the time Zoom wasn't a thing. It's pre-COVID. We didn't know about Zoom. So we're just doing an Instagram live together. And I asked him, something about Oklahoma. He's committed to Oklahoma at the time. And he basically says, if I were to ever decommit, first phone call I would make is to Kirby Smart. And I'm sitting there and I kind of do that one right there. I'm like, oh, whoops. I'm not supposed to show any type of reaction to this. But there it is right there. You hear that radio guy. He said it. He said it. I can't believe he said it. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. There's 3 types of football players. Clemson's not getting any of them out of the portal. The first one is somebody's backup leaving. Not good enough to play where they're at. Why do I want them? That's kind of Dabo's mindset right there. And to be honest with you, I'm good with you, right? If you can't play at Pitt, why in the hell do I think you can play for me? You probably can't. Okay, so I'm with Dabo on that one. Okay, and then the other one, right? Somebody basically going into the portal, already knowing where they're going. They've been tampered with. They already have a deal in place, all that good stuff. He mentions we're not getting that guy either because we're Clemson. We don't tamper. I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. It makes sense to me. And then the third one. Hey, man, we're not. The third example is a guy who hits the portal just to test free agency and see how much money he can make. And I'm here to tell you, Clemson's never going to win a bidding contest. Makes sense to me. All of these comments make sense. However, when you're the guy that's out here doing the most with regards to complaining, doing the most with regards to justifying your decision not to be a part of this portal change in college football, you're going to get the smoke, particularly when the team that just won your conference and the team that is ranked ahead of you and the team that looks to be on the top of your conference is Florida State, a team, by the way, who came back to the scene of dominating or being at the top or near the top of college football by way of transfers. The team that has won your conference and is the favorite, unless you believe in NC State and Virginia Tech hype, is the favorite to win your conference again this fall, has done so improving the holes on their roster via the transfer portal. So you can't do it both ways. You can't be so anti-portal and then wonder why everybody's not or not asking you to get into the portal because the conference is being won by a team who's in the portal. You get what I'm saying? We can't have both. And my thing is, he's done so much of his career. So much of his career has been under the blueprints, and it looks almost identical. He runs his program culturally based. He is a hard-nosed football coach that coaches hard, prioritizes high school recruitment. A lot of what he does in his football program is akin to Nick Saban. It's akin to Kirby Smart. They do things not the same exact way, but they do things very relatively similar. How else would he have gotten on top of the sport and won 2 national titles? Yeah, he had transcended historical quarterback play. He did that because he built his program to get those football players. He did it at least somewhat in the right way. But here's my thing. The great football coaches do this without doing this loudly, okay? Kirby Smart has made it very well known by anybody who has paid attention and anybody who has looked into it, read the tea leaves. Nick Saban did it as well. Guess what they're not doing? They're not getting into bidding wars. They're not. They've made it very apparent. We are not the school to come to if you are seeking the highest average paid value. It's not us. In fact, if you call us and tell us that someone else offered you money, we will just tell you, enjoy playing there. There is no hard bargaining at the University of Georgia. They are not the highest spending roster in the sport. Ohio State is. They are not the one fighting the NCAA in court because they want to do some shit out on the NIL circuit that people don't want them doing. They're not Tennessee. They have made it very adamant they will not be the team out here doing it the most. However, they are not the head coach out in front of the media every single time they get an opportunity shitting on portal culture. You can't have it both ways. And if I were Dabo Swinney, I'm all for it. I'm all for building your culture off high school recruiting, like you said. I'm all for not getting into bargaining, wagers or wars or anything like that. I'm all for not trying to poach other people's roster. I'm all for keeping retention on your own roster. However, you don't have to be so holier than thou. And I think that's why, boys, Dabo gets so much shit. All you have to do is avoid the negative PR as much as humanly possible. And most of the time, as a head football coach, all you got to do is either look the other way or keep your mouth shut. If you don't provide the quote, there's nothing to get smoke on. See what I'm saying? Just avoid the bad PR. Avoid the bad press, which brings me, nervous. Athens Clarke County Police Department. I called him Clowney. My bad. Athens Clarke County Police Department. Let's talk about this. I know the police department in Athens has a job to do. Okay. But let's just try Let's just try to do it without all the total backlash possible. After all, police forces are there to protect and serve the community. So let's talk about what happened this weekend in Athens. Sovi White, a freshman wide receiver at the University of Georgia, was driving the wrong way down East Clayton Street in downtown Athens at 3 o'clock in the morning. Probably not something you should do. Probably a reasonable mistake. Okay. As he's driving down East Clayton, read the police report this morning. As he's driving down East Clayton, a one-way street, driving the wrong way, there is a police officer not hidden. He's parked. I shouldn't call him hidden. He's parked in between two buildings on East Clayton Street. You know why? Because they've had a problem with people driving down this one way and hitting individuals, hitting citizens while they're driving down that one way, because you shouldn't be driving down the one way in the middle of the night. Okay, so this police officer is parked right there. As Jacoby's car goes by him, he pulls out, stops him right there in front of the Georgia Theater. Now, we have a 19-year-old individual driving a car with a person hanging out the window. Probably shouldn't be doing that either. Okay, some recklessness going on. However, we pull this individual over. We see no signs of alcohol, no signs of drugs, no weapons. Driver does not seem to be inebriated. Driver does not seem to be anything other than a person who made a mistake of driving down a one-way. 9 times out of 10, every time I've heard a story like this story ends with that person getting a ticket, for reckless driving or not, but that person getting a ticket and being told, hey, this is a one-way. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Don't do this. Go home. Pay your ticket. Your court date is such and such. It's not what happened here. Okay? What happened here was Sovi White ultimately gets booked, processed, taken to jail, bonded out for $26 for reckless driving. Now, I could sit here and say, oh, bad PR, yada, yada, yada. But here's the reality of the situation. That police officer that arrested Sovi White was given orders. We need to say, I'm not saying directly, I'm just hypothesizing here. Obviously a sensitive subject, you can tell by how I'm doing this. They were obviously giving some type of directive. Hey, we got people driving down this one way. We've had a couple citizens hit. The next time something happens like this, we need to make sure that person is not necessarily made an example of, but we can't have this happening anymore. So let's put a squad car there. Let's make sure no one does it. Let's make sure we set an example out of the first person that does. Unfortunately, that first example was Sovi White. Is what it is. I'm not mad, to be honest with you. I don't think the arrest was out of the ordinary. I think that police officer was doing what he was told to do. Probably unwillingly. Probably didn't even want to do it. I mean, how goofy do you have to feel to arrest a 19-year-old for driving on the wrong side of the road at 3 o'clock in the morning? Probably felt goofy. Here's my problem. I got a real problem with this one. Okay? My problem is anybody with a brain reading what happened to Sovi White or doing any type of investigation on what happened to Sovi White Saturday and reporting it the way some people reported it on Sunday morning. Because it made me sick. It made me sick to report this as, quote, another Georgia player arrested for reckless driving. That was the report. That was the headline of the first several articles that came out about this. When that can't be any further from the reality of the situation. That is what he was booked for. But the reality of the situation is a 19-year-old who moved to that county 6 months ago, drove the wrong way down a road, completely sober, completely without drugs or alcohol or anything in the car, and was made an example out of, booked for $26, and then sent home. By the way, if you've done any type of reporting, you would have known that, not that it matters, Sovi White was at church at 9 o'clock that next morning. You didn't do that, though, did you? You just reported it as another Georgia player arrested. I think it's gross. I think it's gross because it was a nothing story. It's absolutely a nothing story. That everybody, not everybody, a couple of people in our beat sensationalized for clicks. And here's what I'm telling you. I got the data. I didn't sensationalize the headline yesterday when I tweeted it out. You know what I tweeted it out? The story. Young football player drives down one way, wrong way, gets arrested for it, booked for $26. No, I'm not kidding. It did numbers on Twitter yesterday with the real story right there. But nah. We had to write it as if someone was driving 130 miles an hour down the road and got booked for reckless driving. Horse shit. I'm going to be honest with you. Every single person listening to this right now that is a Georgia fan, it's a bunch of y'all. Appreciate y'all for being here. Every single one of y'all listening to this right now, I know you truly love and care about that university. I know y'all love and care about every player that comes out and puts that red and black on. And here's what I'm telling you. Be very, very careful with who you choose to give your clicks to, because some of them are sensationalizing headlines to draw you in to click on.
We went on
back,
what?
man.
40 minutes?
40 minutes
40
straight.
minutes.
It's 41 minutes.
No water either.
None.
Not a sip of water? None.
There it is.
Cooked. Nothing but cooked.
I got some shit.
He's shaking. Oh shit.
Running to me, brother. Nah, man. Some of y'all are getting in with the wrong title, man. It ain't hard to search who these people were. The tweets are still out. They didn't delete them. Go look at the bylines. And here's what I know, because I've been around here long enough. Ain't no editor-in-chief looking over those things. Ain't nobody changing them headlines. That was a rushed news story that people were put in charge to write, and they chose the titles that they did. You know what? I've never done this. I don't even speak about this guy's name. Roddy Nabolsi, I appreciate the way you covered that story on Saturday or Sunday morning. I do, because no one else did it except for us. Told the real story. So I appreciate you, Roddy, because I was made sick. I'm sitting upstairs with my wife, and I see the story hit my timeline at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, damn, another Georgia player arrested. And then I read the article. Some bitch went down the wrong road, sober, and got taken to jail. Again, I'm not mad. I'm not mad at the police officer doing what he was told to do, doing what he was directed to do. I'm mad at you, guy. I'm mad at you, guy, that wrote that one like that, because that's horse shit. Welcome in. Hey, want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks. Look at this nice little hat. I know y'all talked about this while I was gone.
We did.
Cool? Hey, man, good shit right there. Shout out to Prize. It's not a helmet. Not a big purple helmet, but it is what it is.
I think a helmet would have been too busy though. Honestly.
Yeah. We'd had to get rid of the laptop. It is what it is. Shout out to Prize Picks. If you have not already, head over to prizepicks.com. Use promo code Brooks. You'll get a 100% deposit match. What does that mean? You put up to $100, you get instantly matched over there with $100 in your account. If you have not already, please subscribe to this channel. Okay, the boys held it down tremendously last week while I was gone, and a little bit the week before. So we appreciate you guys for being here. The boss is back, though, and it's time to cook. So make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, rate, review him, all that good stuff. If you missed any portion of tonight's broadcast, it will be made readily available, however, wherever you catch your podcast right after the conclusion of tonight's show. Top 5 players from the tour. You want to hear it?
Let's hear
Yes,
it.
please.
All right, numero uno, LaDamian Guyton, 2027 edge rusher out of Savannah Christian. As a 15-year-old, he's 6'3.5", 235 pounds. Multiple SEC staffers came through. Savannah Christian said the same exact thing I did. I ain't never seen nothing like that.
Is he the one who last year when the state title games were going on, you showed us that picture? Like, this kid's 14.
Yeah, he's so good that watching him on a football field next to the number 1 player in 2025, I couldn't take my eyes off him.
Oh,
Good Lord.
Number 2, C.J. Wiley. I don't know if the state of Georgia has produced a wide receiver prospect like this in quite some time. Be honest with you. Whether I consider Travis Hunter a wide receiver prospect, I did, but he's listed as an athlete. You got to go back way, way back down the annuals to find somebody as good as this, in my opinion. Now, I can't wait to watch re-rankings because this dude about to shoot all the way up. But I saw them all. I saw all the elite wide receiver prospects in this state, except for one down in real southwest or south middle Georgia. However, ain't one like this. This is 100% a must-have for the University of Georgia. Not we'd like to have him. No. Must have in 2025 for Georgia. He's the second best player I saw this spring. Number 3, Isaiah Gibson. I'm glad I saw him for the second time. Last year during this tour, Isaiah Gibson was still ranked a 5-star, but in my mind, it was like, we still got some room to grow. And the room to grow was an additional 25 pounds since I saw him last year, most of which was put into his quads. Was not a very thick athlete as a rising junior. He is so much so as a rising senior. All of 6'5", all of 265 pounds, all of stamped 5-star. I think he's going to be an NFL football player when all is said and done. Number 4, and I almost put him 3 because I think Isaiah and him are about even in terms of my eval. Justice Terry out there at Manchester High School. Like what I saw there. He's about 6'3". I'm going to call him 270. He's going to play 3-tech in college. He's going to be really, really, really good. Number 5, Elijah Griffin. He is the number 1 player in 2025 here in the state of Georgia. He's damn good. Some general stiffness that I'm concerned about with Elijah, or else he would be all the way up at number 1. All right, topics for you guys today. We're going to circle back on this House versus NCAA subject. A lot of coaches in year 3, and you guys know around here we got a year 3 rule. We believe that by the 3rd year, you should be good. You should, we should know about you. We should know what you are. We should know whether or not you're going to be a great coach. We should know whether or not you've turned the program around. And we should know whether or not your ass should be fired sometime soon by year 3. So we're going to talk about that. We got 7 coaches on that list. And ESPN came out with their top 25 rankings. Boys, y'all haven't said a word. How are y'all doing?
Doing good, man. Just glad to have you back.
I had to give y'all some chance to breathe after doing 6 hours of content by yourself last week.
I felt like I was back in my living room watching you on my phone, just sitting here.
How'd I do? It's been a while since I ISO balled like that.
I thought you did really well.
It's good.
Thank you.
Good stuff.
Still got it.
We'll check the retention numbers after this. By the way, apparently I'm only worth about 7 minutes.
Oh.
So
Dang.
25, 32.
That's fine.
Not bad. Still, the 25, way above industry standards.
That's right.
So you guys are doing work.
Let's go, dude.
Also, the audience doing work. I mean, come on. In 2024, y'all are sticking around one channel on average 25 minutes when the boys are in town, 32 minutes when yours truly is up here in front of a microphone. God dang, boys, girls, y'all's attention span.
Elite.
Nice. Nice work. What are y'all thoughts about this House versus NCAA stuff, man?
I feel like it's something that's been a long time coming at this point. It's something that we've kind of seen coming for a while, and it's getting here a lot sooner, it sounds like, than we all expected it to. But I'm honestly kind of glad that we're going to get to this point soon, and there's not just going to be this big dark cloud looming over like, hey, the days of college football are in question, the NCAA is numbered. Like, at least let's just get on with whatever it's going to be at this point. And
it sounds like, I mean, we talked about it before the show. Y'all might do a better job of listening to other people. I don't. I wish I did, but I don't. Is anybody else talking about this?
Not in prominence. Not with like, hey, like this is serious, something needs to be talked about.
This thing could get settled within the week. By the end of this week, we could be talking about the new world order in college football. And nobody's out here talking about it except for us. That's weird to me. And maybe Andy Staples. I'm sure On3 gave him that title and that role. But this is groundbreaking stuff. This is literally the new world order in college football. No one's talking about it. It's weird.
Yeah, but I agree with Christian. I think it's great that it looks like this is going to come to an end before the next upcoming season, because I think there's already so many questions about this next season with the expanded playoff. There's no more divisions and multiple conferences now, new members joining a conference. Like, there's already so much, I shouldn't say concerns, but again, questions about this season that people are really intrigued about. I think it brings a lot of excitement about this next year. So I think it's great for the product itself that something like this can be put on the back burner and then we can just fully enjoy this next season.
Yeah.
I mean, what if it happens before the season? Will they just continue this season under the previous regime?
I feel like you have to.
Start it up in 25.
You're too close to starting the regular season. I mean, say this gets done within the week, it'll probably be June before anything officially comes down. At that point, you're 2 months away from the season starting. Like, you can't put together a new system in that time or implement a new system and expect people to follow it.
It's no wonder the NCAA presidents over all of these years, all of them, even dated back to 1997 when the BCS came out. There's a reason the NCAA presidents have gone to Congress and gone to the Supreme Court and been like, hey, will y'all please just help us? Will y'all govern us, please? Because they knew as soon as they went into court, they'd get their ass beat. And that's exactly what's happening right now. It's been happening for the last year and a half. Every time they get dragged into court, they get whipped, which is why they're coming out with some type of settlement on this, and they're going to pay out of their ass. It looks like they could the original lawsuits for like $1.5 billion, and the settlement's going to be like 2.7 because if they lost in court, like I was telling you earlier, that 1.5 turns into what's 1.5 times 3? It's 4.
Yeah,
$4.5 million. So a billion. Keep messing with B's, not M's, dog. I'm talking bread.
I mean, if that happens, it's going to bankrupt the NCAA essentially.
Oh, it won't bankrupt the NCAA. It'll bankrupt some of its member schools that can't afford to pay their split, their portion of the pie.
I think talking about, though, if it is settled before the season, I think the reason why you'd have to extend it to the next year is because it would completely affect this year's recruiting class. And you're already in the midst of that. You've already given your pitches, like official visits are happening and they're going to continue to happen throughout the summertime. Like, it would be such a curveball to throw at programs to say, like, all right, here's the new rules. Now you got to kind of change about how you're going about business, and you got to kind of re-forecast your next upcoming season to where it only makes sense that you extend it to, like, probably, I don't know, next summer probably.
Oh, and also, by the way, Georgia Tech, we need $40 million to get rid of this lawsuit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's going to get after some folks. Yeah. We need to address this because I know some people are jumping into this without having seen us actually talk about it. What are some of the changes that they are talking about making? Revenue sharing is the biggest one, and settlements on this previous revenue sharing model dating back to 2017. That's what the retribution payments are for, ladies and gentlemen. The college athletes from 2017 to 2021 when NIL came about. If you played football before 2017, like myself, I guess we're all just screwed. They just don't care about our brain trauma. So that's okay.
I mean, there's nothing you can do.
No. Just cross your fingers, hope and pray it doesn't get you.
That's right.
The silent killer, CTE. All jokes aside. All right. Coaches in year 3, boys. There are a lot of them. I'm going to list them off. These all were hired in 2021. 2022? 2022 was their first season. Mario Cristobal, Dan Lanning, Billy Napier, Brent Venables, Marcus Freeman, Lincoln Riley, Brian Kelly. If you can't tell, there are a bunch of really, really big programs involved in this discussion of, hey, we got a coach in the 3rd year of his contract. Here on this channel, we believe solidly that if you are going to be a national contending program, your new football coach gets you there within the first 3 years of his regime. You boys obviously agree with the same theory. Yeah. Y'all all subscribe to the myth of this.
Not even show major improvement, at least that you're on direction. Where
Mike Norvell, that bitch. You know what I mean? You ain't got to win the Natty. Yeah. But show me that you can definitely win 12 games, 11 games. You're a national title contender. You're going to be in the top 12 next year, even if you lose half your roster.
For sure.
Show me that you're that guy. So here's the discussion. We'll just go down this line, boys. I want you to tell me if you believe in the next 3 years, this football coach will still be employed at his current institution. Mario Cristobal is going into year 3 at Miami, coming off a 7-5 football season in which things just did not look good. Is he going to be there in 3 years?
Really, the only holdback for me on this one to say that he would be is the contract. Yeah. But even that, like, I find it hard to believe that if things continue to go the way that they have in Miami and you're in year 6 with Mario Cristobal and like things just haven't really changed, you've remained stagnant. Like, let's say he plateaus at where he is right now, or like this is his peak with Cam Ward this year, but things never really changed drastically for Miami. I find it hard to believe that in year 6 they wouldn't be happy enough or they wouldn't willingly eat a chunk of his contract to say, we need to go find somebody else. Because 6 years in, this isn't working out. But even year 3, like, it's hitching your wagon to Cam Ward. It's making sure that you cash in on this bet. And it's a tough bet, in my opinion, for you to cash out on. But I think that in 3 years from now, I find it hard to believe that Mario Cristobal is still around.
My immediate gut reaction to this is no, because just the way things have gone so far, and it's been fairly disappointing. But then you think about, what if Miami gets swallowed by the SEC and we go through another set of conference realignment, and this time are they going to want to switch out a coach? Like, that's the only thing that's kind of tripping me up on this, because I feel like that's what's kind of likely to happening. Like, that's the direction we're heading, at least in college football world. So I'm going to say no, he's not there, but I would not be surprised at all if other circumstances do keep him there.
You know, here's the one thing I think I learned. Well, I learned a lot of things about Jimbo's failures at Texas A&M, but I think one thing we should take from that experiment, if you will, is that recruiting at a high level brings expectations of winning. Obviously, that's everywhere. But when you recruit at a high level with a high price, those expectations go up drastically. What do I mean? Like, Mario Cristobal is not just recruiting at a top 10 level because it's Miami and he's a good recruiter. They're recruiting at a top 10 level because they're paying more than everybody else right now. It is a well-known fact in the recruiting world. You want some bread? Go down to Miami, go to Oregon, go to Tennessee, go to USC, go to Texas. There are certain schools that are out here paying at a much higher rate than other schools. So when you're Mario Cristobal and you go to your boosters and you say, I got to have Cam Ward because Ja'Curry Brown was a total miss. Yeah, you get Cam Ward, but you get Cam Ward with $1.5 million of some booster's money that's now expecting direct results from that type of investment. So I'm with you guys. I don't think Mario Cristobal lasts another 3 years, because I just don't know if the wins and losses are going to, detail that. So I'm with you guys. We all feel as if probably not good right now for Mario and his future down there in Miami. Dan Lanning, do we all feel great, solidified, guaranteed, going to be there?
Yeah, he's one that I think you can say. I mean, there might be a world where in the next 3 years he's one of the best coaches in college football, if he's not that already.
Yeah.
I think he kind of proved that in year one. I know last year was a great season for him. You tripped up against Washington twice, but I think for him to rebound the way that he did after getting diced up by Georgia in week one and continue to have a very successful season after that, and then nonetheless too, like go into the transfer portal, you get quarterbacks, you get Bo Nix, and you continue to build promise for this program. I think year one was great. I think year two was even better. So, I mean, he's already on this trajectory that you're going to be in one of these 12-team playoff teams every single year. It seems like you're already in a great position in the Big Ten, even though it's your first season. So everything looks to be working out for Dan Lanning.
I got a super chat here I want to call out. Mellow number 7 drops a $5 super sub in there and says, hey, check out the Mike linebacker on Milton, Hayden Tumenia. Extremely underrated, led the team in tackles. Can you let me know your thoughts? Switch numbers. We're at number 7 now. Good football player. About 5'11", like 215. Tremendous nose for the football. Don't know if I don't know who his offers are, to be honest with you. But at Milton's a tough place for any non-5-star because the roster is just so damn good.
Right.
So good that there's a Power 5 football player at like every level. They have 4 defensive backs that are going Power 5, 2 Tennessee commits, a Duke commit, and then another guy going somewhere. So like, it's a defensive lineman that just picked up Michigan State, Ohio State, Michigan. Like, they got guys everywhere. So, yeah, if you're a football player on that team that's leading it in tackles, you're a damn good football player. There's no doubt about that. So I think that's kind of a recruitment that will probably pick up steam as the football season comes along. So there. Glad we hit that. All right, next one. Billy Napier, cooked.
Yeah, I think, you're talking about how when you start recruiting and you start having success and the expectations start to rise up, I think Billy Napier is starting to fall victim to this and at a very bad time because they have the number 5 transfer portal class right now because they've been putting in work. They've been getting in players because they need players. And I've already kind of seen this shift in expectation, a little bit of like, oh, the tides are turning. Billy Napier is getting this ship right on track, without really acknowledging what's on the brink for this program in this upcoming season, where it feels like it's almost impossible for there to be success. So I think just because of that, and we continue to say this, like it just feels like there's a very small glimpse of hope for Billy Napier at Florida, and the schedule doesn't help you out. Then even next year's schedule doesn't help you out either. So these next 2 years are crucial, and it's a bad time for you to need a big year.
Yeah, he's a dead man walking. I mean, for everything we've kind of talked about for the last 2 months on this show, I feel like the schedule's too difficult. The way maybe you've handled as many people you have on your staff might have did you in. The fact that you aren't willing to relinquish play calling abilities to a point now where it's kind of like, if you're going to relinquish play calling abilities, why would you do it this year? Like if you're going to go out on your own sword. So I don't think Billy Napier makes it past 2025. I'd
saying he doesn't make it to the Georgia game.
That's possible.
I think it's more likely that he doesn't make it after the Georgia game.
I think if Billy Napier
bye week comes before.
I think if Billy Napier is still the Florida head coach this time next year, he had a great season.
Yeah.
Like that's
I think there is a possibility, and it really all depends on the promises. This is so crazy that we're getting to this point in college football. But does the athletic director go talk to Lagway and say, hey, if we fire this Jamoke, are you going to stick around? Or are you hitting the portal? Is that crazy?
I mean,
are we there?
He feels that crucial to that program.
Yeah, but it's also like, if you're the AD, do you want to put that out there that you have that little trust?
Oh, it would never go out.
Yeah.
It would never go out. Well, if Florida,
but you're relying on
Florida, it might.
But you're relying on the word of an 18-year-old or a kid to not put it out there. Mm-hmm. Like you're telling me that the college guy you talk to is not going to say anything about that. Like I wouldn't put if I were an AD, I wouldn't put my trust in the word of a freshman. Like DJ Lagway might be a stand-up guy, might keep his word and everything, but I wouldn't feel comfortable saying that about another grown man who I hired.
Yeah.
So it's possible though.
He's got 3 years left.
Yeah.
But really only 2 if he plays well.
Right.
So you don't leverage your future of your career or your program for 2 years of eligibility for the 5-star quarterback that you paid an exorbitant amount of money to get.
Indeed.
But you think about it.
I think it definitely crosses your mind.
The booster that's been just DJ Wagway, that guy that's just been waiting on him, he might feel a little bit different, especially if he stroked the check for this player to get there.
No doubt.
You know, that's just, it's crazy, but that's kind of where we are nowadays in college football. What else we got? We got Brent Venables. How you feeling about Venables?
Venables is a weird one because it's like, it doesn't feel like he's really succeeded yet, but no one's really ready to kind of deem it a failure. Like, obviously that year one was
Jackson Arnold sucks. I'm gonna put him on the hot seat.
Yeah. But year one wasn't great, and he had a decent year two. He beat Texas. Dylan Gabriel had a good season. Then obviously Dylan Gabriel leaves, gets pushed out. So I mean, I think this year's gonna be very pivotal in whether or not we see him in the next 3 years. It's too close to call for me right now.
We got Bama fans talking about 17 national titles in the chat. Half of those, Bilbo's barn wagon gave you the damn title. Okay, so most of them don't count. So we're just gonna get that out of there. Y'all do know that, right? Like one of their claimed national titles was awarded to them by the local gas station.
Nice.
I believe it.
Fun stuff. So yeah, keep talking about your 17.
I think with Brent Venables, I think this year's very interesting because we talked about this on Thursday, actually. They have one of the highest returning production rates for their defense this year out of all of college football. Now, that's not always an indicator that success is on the horizon for you. They don't return a lot of offensive production, but you have to think that a lot of that is due to Dylan Gabriel no longer being with your program. You're bringing in Jackson Arnold. So I like to think that a defensive-minded head coach like Venables is going to make sure that his defense is right with a lot of key returnees coming back this year in a conference that is predicated on the defensive side of the football. But it is just a matter of, is Jackson Arnold good or not? And is he going to be a success story for you? Because it has to be. Like that, it doesn't matter how good your defense is. If you look like Iowa this year, where your defense is great, but your offense isn't doing jack squat because Jackson Arnold isn't doing jack squat, then nothing else matters.
I also wonder how much grace is going to be given to coaches entering a new conference. Like, you'd have to imagine there's going to be somewhat of a learning curve for Sark and Venables coming into the SEC. It's your first year there. You're going to have to play teams you've never seen before, never really scouted before, in environments you've never played before. Like, let's admit it. Like, the Big 10 the Big 12 is a little bit different than the SEC. It's a different animal. So I think that there might be more grace given to those types of guys.
What if you find out that your gap is way larger than you ever imagined? What I'm saying is, what if they come out here?
I think it was 6-6.
Oh my God, they look like they're not even close. You don't get.
Then it's accelerated.
Yeah. Then you're hot seat if you look like you're completely the wrong guy. Mm-hmm. Also, great, they returned an entire defense. Wasn't their defense relatively bad last year?
It was much better than it was in 22.
Improved.
It was improved.
It was improved. Year one was bad. Year two, look it up for me.
I'm doing it right now.
I want to know if they were top 30. If they're top 30, we'll give it to you. But if they're like 48th,
I got 48th.
They're like 48th. I got a problem.
23.5 points per game.
Still got a problem in the Big 12. Now, granted, well, they're coming to the SEC, so I would imagine that's going to get an uptick.
Probably.
Okay. I don't know, man. I get really, really nervous when I watch a lifer on the defensive side of the football spend 2 years kind of figuring out defense. Now, Oklahoma fans will listen to that and say, but Brooks, he took over Lincoln Riley's roster. Okay, he took over Lincoln Riley's roster and didn't really improve it defensively, statistically speaking. If you look at Lincoln Riley's last year at Oklahoma and then look at Brent Venables' first year at Oklahoma, presumably with relatively similar players, Venables didn't necessarily improve that defense. In fact, I think they got statistically worse. So, weird. But I think the main thing for me is, does Jackson Arnold suck?
Yeah.
Or is he really, really good? Because if he's just average, not only do you have a problem getting your defense to play at the standard that you were hired to get them to play at, but also, by the way, you're really bad at evaluating quarterbacks. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If we push a 4-year college football starter out that is like guaranteed plug and play, 3,800 yards, 69% completion percentage, nice, and 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, which is what Dylan Gabriel has been his entire career. If we're going to push that out the door for somebody we think is okay, that son-of-a-bitch better be great. You know what I mean? He better be great. And they better have seen that in practice. I would imagine they have.
Yeah, that's why I think that's what only matters to anybody this year is the quarterback position. Marcus
Freeman, how y'all feel about him in Notre Dame?
People seem to be feeling really good about Marcus Freeman in Notre Dame, but to me, it's just like I don't know how you could have elevated that program anymore or made it any better because of what Brian Kelly was able to accomplish. Now, you can say what you want about the lack of accomplishments that Brian Kelly had at Notre Dame, but that was a winning football team. That was a successful football program under Brian Kelly. So you kind of put yourself in this tough position of, I can't really take a product and improve it and make it look glamorous in front of my fan base, but I can kind of maintain the success. I think this is what this year is about for Marcus Freeman and that football team is Riley Leonard making sure that the offense looks better. That's a big step forward for them, is making sure that
against good teams.
And again, like maintaining the standard that was set before you.
I think it's a lot of the hype right now around Freeman and Notre Dame is because of the success that they're having on the recruiting trail right now in 2025. Talked about it in the National Hour, or we're still in the National Hour. Talked about earlier in the show about how most of these SEC schools, most of these yearly perennial powerhouse recruiting programs have fewer than 10 commits in their class. Right now, Notre Dame has 21. So no shit, they're at the top of the recruiting rankings. But if you go look through it, 21 commits, which is about 75% of their class, you would imagine they're probably going to take anywhere from 25 to 28 is the historical average. They have 0 5-stars right now. They have 5, 6, 7, 8 4-stars. The other 13 commits are 3-stars. Like Notre Dame is recruiting bodies. They're not recruiting elite high-end prospects right now, but they have more bodies committed to their class than anybody else. Here's a hot take for you. In the middle of May, Notre Dame has the number 1 ranked recruiting class. I would imagine by December, they might be outside of the top 7. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Marcus Freeman. The key to me at Notre Dame the last several years, do y'all have any weaponry? Do you have any weaponry at all? I know you got offensive line play. I know you just got a new transfer quarterback. I know you got defensive line play because you're Notre Dame. You always do. But do you have skill players? That's my question. You definitely don't have receivers.
Yeah.
I think a lot of this is also going to depend on, do we stop treating Notre Dame like they should be some national powerhouse of a football team? Like, I mean, yes, they're a national brand, but I don't think that we need to continuously try to fit them into the upper echelons of the Ohio States and the Alabamas and the Georgias of the world. Like, those days are over for that program. I hate to admit it, but their proximity to talent is enough, and the fact that they're not in a conference doesn't help them either.
What, do you got an affinity for the Golden Dome? Why do you hate to admit it?
I don't hate to. I don't know. Like, Notre Dame's a fun team. I like them, but
it's a big name.
It's also like, stop treating them like they're one of these premier programs in the sport of college football. They're a very solid team, and they can be, but if they're not competing for national titles, I don't think you can need to consider that a failure.
I agree with that.
All right. So I think we feel good about Marcus Freeman, though.
He'll be fine.
I think he'll be fine.
I think he fits in well there.
If he pumps
it is the rare situation where they don't even expect him to live up to Kelly's standards. Because if they did, he'd already be cooked. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That guy won 10 games a year at Notre Dame his whole time there.
Right.
So very, very interesting. Lincoln Riley, 3 years from now, is he USC's head coach?
I don't think so.
We're going to find out about that Joker's ability to coach for football this year. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, I think this honestly might be – well, no, I take that back. I was going to say this might be the most pivotal of all the coaches for year 3, but I disagree with that already. I think that this is pivotal in the sense of what you're saying of we're going to learn how you can coach football, and you don't have one of these 5-star quarterbacks that you typically had in the past. Like, you really got to prove yourself this year. And so I think it's a big year for USC. But honestly, like, I could very well see Lincoln Riley still being around for the next 3 years. I know this entire last season and somewhat of a lot of the offseason so far we've talked about, does Lincoln Riley even want to be at USC? Is this something that he wants to do, or does he just want to make the jump to the NFL? Well, I would like to think that based on the conversations and the things that have happened on the recruiting trail for them this offseason, he's recruiting that program like he still wants to be around there. He's making efforts on the defensive side of the football like he wants to continue to have success at USC and build this program up and have them be competitive. So I kind of think that Lincoln Riley will be around there for the next few years.
Love it. What do you got?
I just can't see Lincoln Riley at that school in 3 years for a couple of reasons. One, yes, although he has put ultimate resources into building his defense, he hasn't shown that he can coach or develop those players. Like, he's gotten highly talented guys from the transfer portal and it hasn't worked out. Like, he got Bear Alexander last year and that defense still was abysmal. On top of that, his quarterback play is automatically going to decrease. Like, you go from Caleb Williams and Miller Moss. Like, I'm sorry, even if Miller Moss is a great quarterback this year, even if Miller Moss wins the Heisman, he won't be as good as Caleb Williams. So it just, to me, the writing on the wall screams. And oh, by the way, now you're in a much harder conference. Like, the Big Ten is a lot different than the Pac-12.
Got one for you.
I can see you're thinking, what's up?
Frosted tip him.
Okay.
Frosted tip him.
Yeah.
Have him retire from football and travel around the country only visiting elite barbecue places.
No.
And it's like a diner, drive-ins, and dives, but with Lincoln Riley pretending to be Guy Fieri and only doing barbecue joints.
He could learn a thing or two.
Yeah,
and
he doesn't know
every
anything about
fourth
barbecue.
episode, we make him cook some seafood.
No.
No?
It's a waste of seafood, dude.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
It's a waste of food.
But Mans needs to train either way. You got to get better. Got to get better.
For sure.
I agree with you.
I also think that it's not crazy to assume that Lincoln Riley has an 11-1 season at USC and immediately goes to the NFL after.
Not a bad point. I think his longevity, just like I feel this way about the head coach at Colorado, I think the longevity of those coaching stints at those programs might just rest on the shoulders of Julian Lewis's commitment. USC has, I don't think they took a single soul in 2025 so far. They don't have another quarterback.
No.
Their plan, if Julian flips, is to take some local in-state kid that they already have walking on. I don't know their plan in 2026 because originally their plan in 2026 was Julian.
Yeah.
And they were going to take 2025 off. Colorado has no future plan whatsoever other than Julian Lewis. So, like, lot riding on the decision of a 17-year-old kid. So we'll see about that one. Speaking of see about that one, we'll talk about ESPN's top 25 tomorrow. We'll also talk about the average cost of starters tomorrow on the local hour. We have a whole lot of local topics to talk about right now.
Welcome into Talk the Dog, the show where we find a bone to pick and a take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes. Can I talk that dog?
What's up? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
Welcome into our local hour. We got a loaded one for you. I got a message to the NFL community. I'm fitting to cook. Andrew Paul transfer. We're going to talk about that. Very weird situation there. I want to talk about it a little bit. We got some algorithm. Some Georgia-focused algorithm coming to tonight's show. Kirby Smart is fed up, and we'll talk about that. Details from the trail, or as we're going to call it from now on, D-Trails. I like that.
Nice.
And then when will the media figure it out? I don't know. We're going to talk about it tonight. Make sure you're in that thumbs up button. Like, subscribe, and rate, and review, and firing off in that chat. Super Subs, the only one we're paying attention to tonight. Okay, so make sure you're firing off in that chat over there. Dear NFL community. Dear NFL community, do you know that not all tight ends were created equal? Did you know this? You know how I know this? I know this because I watched the University of Georgia win 2 national titles and terrify the ever-loving piss out of every defensive coordinator that they played for 2 years, playing 2 tight ends at all times. About 90% in 12 personnel. Last time I checked in 2021. 2022 numbers dipped off a little bit with some injuries, but nonetheless, 2023, hell, they're an 11 personnel team. Why? Because they no longer have 2 great tight ends on their roster. However, I know that this works because I saw it work. And then I saw the offensive coordinator that implemented this strategy get paid like $2.5 million to leave Georgia and go be the OC at Baltimore and then turn around. I don't know, pretty damn good coordinator because Baltimore, I don't know, led the NFL in yards per game and scoring last year during the regular season. Todd Monken probably knows what he's doing. Managed to take 2 completely polar opposite tight ends and make them great together, right? It's crazy. I don't know how they happen. Did you know, NFL community, that saying Michael Mayer and Brock Bowers are duplicating skill sets, that's blaspheming.
Wrong.
That's what you're doing. You are blaspheming out here in front of everyone. Michael Mayer, not the character, Michael Mayer, the football player, is 6'4", 265 pounds. Mayer, in college, averaged 11 yards per reception. He was a physical, contested catcher, end of line, matchup against linebackers and safeties type of tight end at 265 pounds. Brock Bowers is 6'4", 235 pounds, and in college averaged 14.5 yards per reception. Okay? This was a play after the catch type of football player. This was not a play ends at the catch point, highly contested, ooh, big tough hands, wow, big body target. That's not what this human was. In college, it was, hey, how do we get Brock the ball so he can run over everybody and run away from everybody once he gets it? They're two totally different football players. They do totally different things. In order to have a duplication of skill sets, the skill sets have to be the same. They're not the same at all. One is an inline tight end, and one probably shouldn't even be considered a tight end, that being Brock Bowers. The amount of times Brock Bowers had his hand in the dirt as an end-of-line tight end last year, can probably count them on two hands. Most of the time he was in motion. Most of the time he was in the slot. In fact, last year, I think he was in the slot 35% of the time was the numbers. That's not a tight end. That's a mismatch, okay? And I don't care how many 6'5", 265-pound jamokes you got on the roster, ain't none of them Brock Bowers. Goofy argument that I saw all over the timeline, and I know you're a Raider fan, so you probably saw this even more. Are you tired of seeing this?
It's definitely getting old. It's just one of those things where there's always going to be people upset with a pick, and there's always going to be people that try to, be the smart thing and undercut, like, oh my God, this is so stupid. They already had a tight end. Like, for all the reasons you just explained, like, you don't have to only have one tight end on a roster. You can have more than one.
I think it's maybe because, like, the Raiders are the first organization really to implement this by the definition of tight end and tight end. Like, Atlanta kind of tried it last year by having Kyle Pitts and Jonnu Smith, two very different tight ends, but they did it in a very different way because Arthur Smith loves to run the football. I think the 49ers kind of do this a little bit because Juszczyk, while he's a fullback or whatever you want to list him as, him and Kittle, very different skill sets, but you kind of use them in similar ways.
I mean, hell, Kittle and Charlie Warner are like two guys.
Yeah,
like
exactly. That's a great point as well. And then I think you could also put the Rams in this category as well, Tyler Higbee, and then Puka Nacua, whether you want to call him a tight end or not. I think you kind of group them in the same group as well. But I think because it's Michael Mayer and then also Brock Bowers, two great tight ends, one was drafted in the second round, one was drafted in the first round, people are taking as, oh, well, they already want to move on from him, Mayer, because they want Brock Bowers in the first round. I just think that they're looking at it wrong, and they're one of the first organizations to kind of do it by definition.
You released an article about this today. Mayer had some quotes, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He said this was talking about if he believes it'll be a smooth transition playing along him. He said 100%. Our job is to win ball games. As an offense, we need to score touchdowns, and that's what we're going to do to the best of our ability. And then he also said he's fast. He's got great hands. He can block. He can do it all. We can both do it all. I think we're going to be dangerous. I think we're going to have a great offense. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I hope he's right.
And even he said that we can run a lot of 12 personnel with us too. So,
by the way, you were right. I looked it up before the show. The Atlanta Falcons led the league in 12 personnel percentage. I think they were in it like 39% of the time last year, maybe even more. I think maybe 41%. And they threw the ball 59% of the time out of 12 personnel.
Huh.
Interesting. Huh? You know why? You get in 12 personnel, you create some mismatches with personnel groupings from the defense. Okay, particularly in the NFL where a lot of teams don't really see a 12 a ton. The base personnel package in professional football is 11 personnel, one tight end, one wide receiver. So when you throw 12 at them, now all of a sudden we have to have this discussion as a defensive coordinating staff probably on Monday or Tuesday before we actually get to the game of, hey, how are we going to cover this? Are we going to cover this in base personnel, meaning 3 linebackers on the field and 4 defensive backs? Or are we going to remain in nickel, which is our new base personnel, which means we have 5 defensive backs on the field and only 2 linebackers? That discussion, that back and forth, that how are we going to that makes it tough on the opposition, especially when the second tight end isn't really a tight end. He is a mismatch. He is a problem. Do we nickel him? Do we dime him? What do we do? We don't know. That's the whole purpose of having both these guys on the field at the same time. So there you go.
Yeah, I think that's a great situation to put that organization in, because you don't have one of these all-class quarterbacks under center. You don't have one of these elite arm talents. So why not just go ahead and give your guy some mismatches to work with and not make his job tough, even tougher than it already is?
You know, Smooth got the chat fired up over there.
Oh, man.
And I just want to say this. I honestly feel bad for Smooth. And here's why. There ain't a content creator in Alabama good enough for you, bud. You got to come over here and watch us, dog.
You sending him away with
No, I ain't sending him away.
The hell you doing?
I'm more talking shit about the Alabama beat. Y'all ain't got nobody entertaining over there, dog.
Nah, dude, keep Smooth over here.
Nah, Smooth, you stay right there, buddy. I'm glad you're with us. Make sure you're in that thumbs up.
Keep commenting, too.
Yeah, for real. Keep firing off in that chat. We got to trick that algo. Speaking of tricky, Andrew Paul. A little weird, huh?
Yeah.
We'll take you through Andrew Paul's timeline here. Andrew Paul, lesser known recruit coming out of high school. Georgia takes him. Everybody's like, good football player. I think he chose between Georgia and Clemson. I think Clemson was an opportunity for him to enroll up there. So he comes to Georgia. And very early on, insiders like myself are hearing, damn, this Andrew Paul dude, he can tote it. Mm-hmm. Now, we got to get him to hold on to the football a little bit longer. Got a little bit of a fumbling problem. But this guy's going to be a dude. Within like 2 months, pops the knee, right? Blows the knee out, has a major knee injury, gets the knee surgery. Takes about 16 months to really rehab fully, get back to himself. Last fall, kind of gets thrown back into the mix with practice time, all that good stuff. This spring, Trevor Etienne comes in, got Nate Frazier coming in, Chauncey Bowens is already here. Oh, by the way, Branson Robinson's going to be coming back from his knee injury. We really like this Roderick Robinson guy. Room's kind of crowded. He goes out to spring ball, balls out. I mean, has a really good day. Some would argue looked like one of the better running backs on the roster during G-Day. Hits the transfer portal. Not something we were shocked by, surprised by. We knew this was probably a guy you need to be paying attention to. Most of the reasons because I thought his demand was going to be really, really high. I thought a guy like Andrew Paul doing what he did, knowing what we know about his recruitment process, I thought Andrew Paul was going to have a home, a good home. A mid-major to Power 4 home. Like, I thought he was going to go to a big school. Jacksonville State? That was weird. I'm not saying anything down on Jacksonville State. I'm saying that every good football player that left a really good program this spring ended up at another really good program. Prime example, Jonathan Jefferson. Doesn't play a meaningful down of playing time at Georgia, ends up at SMU for good money, by the way. Same thing for they took another defensive lineman last year. I don't want to say Tramel Walthour. I want to say another defensive end. Nonetheless, took him. We got old buddy that went to. Why am I drawing names right now?
Are you thinking of the
Notori Johnson, a offensive lineman that played offensive line, defensive line, ends up at Middle Tennessee State. That's not Power 4 football, but it's not Jacksonville State. See what I'm saying? Like, Amir Speed doesn't ever play, loses his job. To Keely Ringo, goes to Arkansas.
Went to Michigan State. Okay. Latavius Bernee doesn't really play, loses his job, goes to Arkansas. Like, we got a plethora of these. I don't have a guy going from Georgia to Jacksonville State very, very often, except for Clay Webb, but Clay Webb's a 6-foot-tall interior offensive lineman. It made sense. And he's getting NFL draft buzz right now.
That's crazy.
People are high on Clay Webb right now.
He's All-American 2 years in a row, going back for another year.
But I think, too, the interesting thing about Andrew Paul is I know that he had the knee injury, but this is a guy that has a lot of tread left on that tire, and he didn't have to – he wasn't a workhorse for Georgia or anything like that. Spent 2.5 years at a program like Georgia. And for them to really – I mean, from the moment he entered the portal until the moment he committed –
quiet.
Very quiet. There wasn't a whole lot of buzz around anything. There was no leads. Like, there was no, like, this team seems to be the favorite for Andrew Paul. And then he ends up at Jacksonville State.
Look, I want to pile on here. I don't. But I want to make a statement, okay? The news about him transferring to Jacksonville State, do y'all remember who broke it?
Nakos?
I don't care about the actual reporter. Oh. You know who broke it? The agency. The agency leaked it because on all of the announcements of actual reporters who broke the story, whether it be Pete Nakos, whether it be our guy from 24/7 Sports, whoever it is, all these guys that are talking to these agents, Matt Zenitz, all these dudes who are very clearly talking to agents. The reporting on this was Former Georgia running back Andrew Paul will transfer to Jacksonville State per his agent. And then they tag the agent. I'm here to tell you right now, whoever's listening to this, if you go from Georgia and put good tape on, if you go from Georgia and you transfer to Jacksonville State, by God, you need a new damn agent. I'm going to tell you that right now. You need a new agent because I could have got you somewhere else, I think. I personally believe I could have got Andrew Paul somewhere other than Jacksonville State. Again, not crapping on Jacksonville State, just telling you how much better of a football player I think Andrew Paul is than Jacksonville State. We all agree?
I think we all agree with that.
I mean, my 6-foot center snapping ass got recruited by Jacksonville State out of high school. And I ain't Andrew Paul. You know? Chat says D-trails are what he leaves when it snows outside. You don't get it? Do you get it?
I get it.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about these
But
D-trails.
wouldn't that you also leave just like
Footprints and a D-trail, apparently. You just got it.
Yeah.
I was waiting on it. I was waiting on him to get it. He finally got it. D-trails. Let's give it to you. Went to 43 different high schools this last 3 weeks. It was a lot. It was a lot. Saw a lot of really, really good football players. I saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 football players in the 2025 class in this state of Georgia that will kind of dictate how your class goes at the University of Georgia. So I want to give you some updates on all of these football players. I'm going to group the three most kind of like highly touted football players that everybody wants to know about to start. And they're grouped together, in my opinion. Justice Terry, our guy Gibson, who I keep Isaiah Gibson down there from Warner Robins, and Elijah Griffin down there from Savannah Christian. All three 5-stars, I believe, in the 2025 class. All three defensive line prospects, defensive end prospects, whatever you want to call them. They're all going to play on the front four when they get to college. Two of them, Terry and Gibson, are currently committed to USC. Griffin, Elijah Griffin for Savannah Christian, is also going to take an official visit to USC, where I would imagine they really, really try to pressurize him into a commitment to USC. I feel strongly that all three of those football players have a very, very solid chance of ending up at the University of Georgia after the last 3 weeks of work that I just did. Okay, going to see these young men, talking to the people around them, talking to Georgia about them, talking to other schools about them, talking to the schools that are interested in them about them. I feel good that these three players, if you were to coin flip them right now, that coin flip's going to land on the University of Georgia. And I'm telling you right now, if those three are your defensive line class, God dang, give Trey Scott a raise. Give Uzo a raise. Give all of them a raise, because those are really, really, really good football players. And again, I feel good about your opportunities to land them. Not putting out SSMs out here on the channel. Those are sliding scale majiggies. Okay, but we may or may not have done that over on patreon.com/Brooks Austin. Head over there if you want to find out the full details. Another one, CJ Wiley. We talked about him earlier. Okay, must have for the University of Georgia. This individual is 6'5", 190 so pounds, and is running 8'3", maybe even lower, maybe even faster than that as of late. I think chat says something about 10'6".
Yeah, that's what I saw.
He fast. Okay, he fast and he damn good. I saw him during his spring game. He got a $170 in 18 minutes of gameplay. So like the first quarter and half of the second quarter, see you. That's it. We're shutting you down for the day. You've done enough. He is a absolute guy. Okay, Georgia has really, really prioritized this recruitment as of late. Bobo and Coley spent a good amount of time during the spring evaluation at their one stop. Because you only get one stop, but they made sure that one stop, they got enough out of that one. So very, very important recruit for them in 2025. As of late is Ousmane Kromah. Now, Georgia fans will know Ousmane Kromah's name if they've been following recruitment and have known that name for quite some time. Ousmane got an offer from Georgia his sophomore year. I saw Ousmane as a freshman rushing for, I think, 36 attempts for 250 against Lowndes. Wow. You rush for 250 as a ninth grader against Lowndes, I'm just going to hand you your offer right then and there. Georgia waited about 12 months to do so. And the weird thing about Ousmane's recruitment is, I mean, he was a prospect that was takeable for Georgia under Dale McGee, But I don't know how much Dale McGee truly loved him, to be honest with you. I don't know if he felt compelled to absolutely have to have him. Josh Crawford, however, the new running backs coach at the University of Georgia, has all chips in on this guy. Like Usmani even told me, and it's in the article that were released, Josh Crawford made it very clear to him that this is a football player that is not only a must-have, he's the number one priority at running back in 2025. Georgia is now pursuing him as such. The only schools that I think are going to compete for this one are Clemson, Florida State, and Miami. I think you can kind of push Clemson out. I think Georgia, Florida State, and Miami are kind of at a crossroads right here, bumping into each other. Florida State has proximity and just pure consistency. Florida State has been heavier and harder on Usmani than anybody else for the longevity of his prospect, timeline. Georgia kind of a Johnny come lately, but been here the whole time, still kind of getting to know him. Now, the Miami coach taking a very different approach. Usmani's mom from Liberia, my Nigerian complex. Liberia, 2 states over in Africa. 2 countries? Provinces?
Don't ask me about African geography. I don't know.
2 spots left. 2 spots west of Nigeria is Liberia. Liberia, also the homeland of Usmani's mom, also the homeland of Miami's running backs coach's mom. Miami's running backs coach's mom and Usmani's mom got on the phone, Liberia'd it up a little bit. So you got some, I think mama like Miami, because why wouldn't you? Some common ground there. And Usmani even said, like, that is a very important part of the recruitment here because this is somebody who can relate to me and can relate to my family based solely off of this wild connection that we come from the same place, essentially, at least our ancestors do. So feel good about that one. Still some competitions to be had. Zayden Walker told me directly Georgia's in the lead for him. Still has official visits to take. He's going to go to South Carolina. He's going to go to Miami. He's going to probably go to Florida State, and he just got back from Georgia this weekend. He's spending 2 weekends in a row at the University of Georgia. Scavenger hunt weekend, got his OV coming up this weekend.
Nice.
Got to feel good about that.
Right.
5-star in-state linebacker. Also told me that, this is a football player who's been playing outside linebacker his whole high school career. He knows that in college he's going to be playing inside linebacker. We've talked about on this channel, that is a major, major transition. We are going from, let me read this left tackle. If he down blocks, I'm going to go run down the line of scrimmage. If he comes to me, I'm going to point shed, stay outside. Boom. End of responsibilities on third down. I'm going to hunt the quarterback. Well, now all of a sudden we move in. We come play inside linebacker. Now we're reading guards. We're reading, now that guy's coming to me. I got a point. I got a attack and shed. Oh, by the way, we're reading mesh points. Does the running back have the ball? Does the running back or the quarterback have the ball? Oh, shit, quarterback's got the ball. Now I got to turn and get into my drop. Totally different position. He is playing this position at inside linebacker now for the first time at Schley County. And he knows that if he's going to go to college and become the best version of himself at inside linebacker, by God, he better go play for an inside linebackers coach that knows how to develop this position. Anybody know somebody like that?
I think there's a guy at Georgia. His name's Glenn.
I think
his name.
Glenn Schumann.
Yeah,
Snowman.
Like shoes.
Shoes.
Something about shoes.
I think it's spelled with 2 U's.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe a couple of N's at the end of that too. Glenn Schumann, pretty good at coaching inside linebackers. Feel good about Zayden Walker. Todd Robinson. Todd Robinson is currently a quarterback at Valdosta High School. Okay. This March got his first Power 5 offer from the University of Georgia. Okay. Now, why would Georgia offer this quarterback at Valdosta High School, in March, knowing that their quarterback board is kind of set? In March, their quarterback board was any combination of Julian Lewis-Zollers and Ryan Montgomery. Obviously, I have Ryan Montgomery. What's his Valdosta? Well, he ain't a quarterback. He is not a quarterback. Todd Robinson is about 6 foot tall. Todd Robinson is exactly 200 pounds. Todd Robinson is the Quadzilla. He holds about 100 pounds right in his quads. And Todd Robinson ran 10.8 this spring in the 100 meters. And, by the way, Todd Robinson ran 23 miles per hour on the treadmill.
It's pretty fast.
Todd Robinson's got every SEC offer in America right now. And Todd Robinson's going to take official visits to some very, very big schools. And he's got a decision to make. What position am I going to play in college? Because some schools, like Georgia, want him to play running back, does Josh Crawford. But some schools, like Georgia, want him to play defensive back, does Travaris Robinson. So my first question to Todd was not, hey, where are your officials? What position do you want to play, son? Because that's all that's going to matter. Where do you want to play in college? He wants to play defensive back. By the way, any football player to ever up in the air of what position am I going to play coming from Valdosta, yo ass playing defense. You are. Okay, now you come from Cobb County, we might let you play offense. But you from Valdosta, dog, you tough. You're gritty. You're a lunch pail guy. All right. You're going to play defense. And Todd Robinson is going to play defense in college. Like Georgia's chances a lot right there. Being first, being the in-state school, being as adamant as you are about having to have this guy, it's going to play out, I would imagine, in your favor towards the end. Oh, also, by the way, very quiet. Seems quiet. Shelton Felton, the head coach down there at Valdosta, always like to ask, who's your alpha? Todd Robinson. Don't nobody take shit up off Todd Robinson. So even though he's quiet in his demeanor, he is an alpha. Speaking of alpha, Elias Williams, didn't have the chance to watch him practice. I don't have to. Saw practice footage of him. Best position player in America. Yeah, he's that good. A must keep for the University of Georgia. I told Patreon this, and I will relay this information now. Miami seems like a threat. They can certainly buy their way into the mix, and they certainly have. Florida State's the threat. I had a coach tell me if Florida State gets their teeth into Mama, watch out. That's everybody. That's everybody in that South Georgia area. If they can get close to Mama, watch out. And they do a very, very good job of it. The one thing I keep hearing about Norvell, he knows how to play the game. He knows how to play the game. He knows how to play the game. He's a good recruiter. All right. I'm not worried about Miami with Elias. In fact, I think there's even some fatigue there with that one. I would be worried about Florida State. Okay. But I don't worry enough to change my thoughts about where he ends up. I think Georgia knows exactly what they have or what they will have in Elias Williams. 6'7.5", 87-inch wingspan at 240 pounds. He looks like Calvin Johnson right now in high school. The footage that I've seen of him, actually, because he was in a triple option. I don't think a lot of people know this. This is a 5-star tight end in an option-based offense down at Camden County. They're going to open it up a little bit this year, which means there is practice footage of Elias Williams basically playing X and routing up on the outside. And it is terrifying because no one obviously can guard him. So Georgia knows what they've got. Georgia will hold on to that one as long as they possibly can. And, oh, by the way, it's Todd Hartley. He doesn't lose very often. I asked in-house. He's 6'7". He's 245 pounds already. 240 pounds already. Are y'all going to Darnell Washington that guy? Are y'all going to make him 270 and make him inline? And the answer was, he will play whatever God intends him to play. We have
Lord willing. We
have no preconceived notions on what we're going to do with this guy. We just got to get him here. Just got to get him here, and he'll be one of our best players. Lagonza Hayward, safety from Toombs County, is all of 6'2". He's a big kid. Really, really big kid. 6'2", verified 200 pounds in my opinion. I didn't put him on the scale, but he's 200 pounds. Another interesting one. Plays south. That's not South Georgia. That's kind of southeast, like middle Georgia, if you will, down there in Toombs County. And this was a football player who didn't really have major buzz. I think Tennessee was his first Power 5 offer in November of last year. Okay, after that, it was a smorgasbord of major offers. Georgia offered this spring, and since they've offered, Lagonza Hayward went from an in-state player who they were evaluating, they might have a takeable grade on, to we need to take Lagonza Hayward, and they will, I would imagine, attack that recruitment process that way moving forward. Juan Gaston, the 6'9", maybe.
Yeah.
6'8.5", whatever. The biggest human in the state of Georgia, playing offensive tackle at Westlake. I feel really good about where Georgia's at with that one. And I feel really good about him, by the way. And I don't mind saying this out loud because I know some kids watch, and I know his coach watches. So I don't mind saying this because they've told him this. The literal moment Juan Gaston decides that he's going to play like Juan Gaston can play every single down, there will be nothing stopping this human being from being a top 5 NFL draft pick. There is $45 million in one signing bonus waiting on Juan Gaston, assuming he just tries really hard every single time moving forward. There's a 15-year NFL career waiting for him. The moment he decides, I'm going to try really, really hard every time. I've seen him once in person over the 12 dozen, half the baker's dozens times that I've seen him since he's been in high school. There's one time where I saw the person in front of him be good enough to where it requires him to produce effort every single snap. And that was last spring game against Jordan Carter at Douglas County. You were there, right?
Yep.
And I told you, we are watching an NFL football player left tackle, didn't I?
Mm-hmm.
I feel that way. I feel this way about this player when he tries. When he doesn't, when there's just a player in front of him that he can just stand in front of because God touched him, when he could just do that, he does that. He chooses not to play hard. And that's tough, except for I know there's at least a switch. If I know there's a switch, I can bet on the switch. And I can bet on Stacey Searles getting it out of him if he comes to Georgia. Which, again, I feel strongly that that's going to be the ultimate decision there for him. And I also feel strongly that the last 2 years since Stacey's gotten there, I haven't watched Georgia's offensive line play this hard. They play harder now under their offensive line coach than any of the other 2 guys that I watched. Sam Pittman's a great recruiter. Sam Pittman's a great coach. Sam Pittman's a great human. I can't count how many times I saw Broderick Jones 45 yards down the field laying somebody out. The moment Stacey got there, they were all over the tape, right? So much so that Kirby's talking to Ernest about, hey, can you play like Broderick played? Because Broderick played hard. These guys play hard under Stacey Searles. I feel no doubts about that. And then the last one I want to talk about, Donnie Glover. You know, the last two and a half classes, Georgia has basically just said, hey, you 6'6", you 355 pounds or plus, you can come play offensive line for us. Are you a tackle that thinks you can play tackle that we will ultimately move to guard? You can come play for us. Are you the largest human that God has ever placed in your county? You can come play for us. That has kind of been the MO for these guys. That's how you sign a class like they did last class, where you signed 6 offensive linemen, I believe it was, that all averaged over 6'5", 330 pounds. You've been signing gargantuan humans. But what you haven't signed is a true interior offensive lineman that can guarantee you play center. So that kind of narrows it down in 2025 to 2 names, Donnie Glover, Cortez Smith. Donnie Glover being the interior offensive lineman that is from Langston Hughes, Cortez Smith being the lifelong center that is at Parkview High School. I think these 2 dudes are going to be like this the rest of the class, trying to figure out who's going to be the center take for the University of Georgia and Stacey Searles. And right now, Donnie Glover got that top spot. That's what I think is going on right now. So we're going to see what happens with Cortez Smith moving on. But right now, it looks like we're going to try to sign 4 behemoths, 4 monstrous human beings, and maybe Donnie Glover. That's what it's looking like right now at the University of Georgia. Any thoughts on the D-Trails?
I was going to ask you, I know we didn't get your thoughts from him because you were gone, but Thomas Blackshear, I know you went and saw him. What'd you think of him?
A lot of George Pickens.
That's what Coley said, I think.
A lot of George Pickens is the kind of vibe, both skill set and personality.
Ooh, good.
Yeah, both skill set and personality. I think we're going to get some fun out of Thomas Blackshear no matter what.
Like that.
I got a question. How's that calf doing?
Hey, that's the real D-Trail we need to know about.
All right, so what was it, like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I came on here and I was like, ooh, feel a little bit of calf tightness.
That's probably the last time
I'm going to tear my Achilles up.
Guarantee I'm going to tear my Achilles pretty soon. And y'all were like, really? And I was like, yeah, not feeling great. So that was on like a Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Friday of last week or 2 weeks ago, I go down to, I think, Warner Robins, and then I drive all the way back up. And Saturday morning, I'm going to Westlake High School. And before I go to Westlake, I'm going to McIntosh. And I kind of told you guys, hey, man, it's like weird just tightness, not like feeling anything, but like general tightness in the calf. Probably going to tear my Achilles. And then I go to McIntosh High School. I run around, I do my thing, and then I drive over to Westlake. And if you guys don't, you guys know, but the audience doesn't. Everywhere I go, I take my camera with me, obviously, and I'm taking MP4 files. I'm taking video of the player that I am watching for my historical basis and any coach that wants it. If you're a coach listening right now and you're like, damn, Brooks, you saw 43 schools this year? I'm like, yeah, I saw 43 in 3 weeks. And oh, by the way, I have video files of every single Division I athlete that was at that school that I was at that day. You got film of that many players? Yeah, I got film. Just ask, coach. Just hop in my DMs. You'll get them right now. So I am filming Juan Gaston. They're at the 20 going in. Okay? So I'm behind them. They score Riverside. You know what Riverside means? No. We're flipping the drill. Yep. We're now going in Riverside. We're going to the opposite side of the river, and we're going to come out. So guess who's in the middle of the secondary, just standing there with his camera going, oh, shit, I better move. This guy. So I go from the backside 30 to run back into the end zone. And as I'm running into the end zone, they're taking a snap. So I pull one of those, kind of like jogging over and then kind of do one of these and do that. And as soon as I go to do that, I plant my left foot. I feel as if someone has hit me in the back of the leg with a football. I mean, just smacked my calf. So much so that I look down. I'm looking around like, what in the hell? Where's the ball? I got to give it some. The pain starts to set in, like real bad. And I look down at my leg, and it looks like I got like 1,000 worms just going nuts in my left calf.
Oh, you cramped up?
No. This was not. I've had cramps, baby. I've had multiple cramps in the calf. I could force a calf cramp right now if I really wanted to. No, this was 100% a torn muscle on my calf. 100%. So much so that I could not put any weight on my toe at all.
Has it bruised?
No, it didn't. But I kept it under compression and ice elevation, kept off of it for 3 days. Nonetheless, you're ruining my story. It gets worse. I can't walk, right?
Yeah.
I'm in the end zone by myself. So I sit down on my ass in the end zone. And I'm like, how am I going to get to my truck? What the hell am I going to do? So I hit the starfish in the middle of the end zone. I'm just laying on my back thinking of all the mistakes that I've made to bring myself to this point right here. How did I get here? And then all of a sudden I catch a tap on the shoulder, and it's the offensive line coach. And he's like, are you okay? I'm like, nah, dude, I straight up tore my calf. And he's like, I thought you were having a seizure over here. So I'm glad it's your calf. I get literally carried off of this football field. Embarrassing. One of the most embarrassing moments I've had in my career.
They couldn't get the trainer to pull up the gator.
So they tried. They were like, hey, we'll get the gator over here. And I said, I will limp my fat ass to the truck. You are not carrying me out on a damn cart right now. No. Really? You think me limping to the truck with ice on my calf is more embarrassing
you said you got carried
than being carted out?
You said you said you got carried to the truck.
No, I got carried to the sideline, limped to the truck. Okay. I had to get carried off the field by 2 coaches. And then I'm sitting on the bench. I say, hey, can you send the trainer over here? I make sure my Achilles is still intact. Like that's important here. Make sure I'm down a couple months, not a couple, a year. So, yeah.
I'd have gotten in the gator.
You would have gotten the gator?
Yeah.
No. The whole team watching a gator get pulled over there, y'all would have hopped in the back of that.
They already watched you get carried to the side.
No, they did not.
They already watched
only the corner of the field that saw it.
They watched you lay down in the end zone and starfish. You're like,
I was dead, man. I was dead, man. I got to take this call.
Ooh, business call.
It is.
What should we talk about for the next? Dude, it's just like the entire last week. Here we are.
Yeah,
again.
Right back at it. Even when he's here, we can take over the show, man.
What's left on the show sheet? Let's see.
We could talk about how Kirby Smart is fed up.
Bring it on. What do you got, J-Lo?
So Kirby Smart was doing his little interview with Paul Feinbaum. A lot of quotes have come out of this before the golf tournament. And so Paul Feinbaum was kind of talking to him about the upcoming season, and Kirby Smart gave this quote, and it is so very Kirby Smart, and this is why I loved it so much. He says, "I'm so excited to go out there and get an opportunity to play. I'm tired of all the talk about NIL and all the talk about portal and all of the complaining. Let's go play football. Let's get our team against their team, and let's go see where we stand, and let's go play."
Kirby really hit him with the shut up and play, dude.
He really did.
He's
He said,
sick and
"I'm
tired
tired of it, man. I'm tired of the complaining."
Hey, bro, I'll call you back.
So I mean, just a great, especially too, because like you have to know, like every single time someone gets to sit down with Kirby Smart, or anytime Kirby Smart sits in front of a podium right now, it's talking about transfer portal, where it's players that he's bringing in, players that are leaving. What does he think about it? How is it affecting the sport? NIL, how is that affecting the sport? How is it affecting your program? What's the dollar amount? All this stuff, to where I guess he's gotten asked about it so much, and I guess Kirby Smart has gotten to this point too, where he can just be like, freaking tired of people complaining.
Well, I think it is because with the retirement of Nick Saban, Kirby Smart kind of has become the mouthpiece of college football when it comes to head coaches. Like, everyone kind of looked to Nick Saban for answers because he was the winningest, he was the GOAT, he was also one of the older and wiser coaches in the sport. But now I think that's somewhat transitioned towards Kirby Smart, just simply because he's now one of the most successful. He's a disciple of Saban, and he's extremely wise in the sport.
Do you think this has to make Georgia fans feel good about Kirby Smart in the future of the program, and more so like him remaining around for a little while?
It's the most Kirby quote ever.
Yeah.
Quit bitching and moaning, line it up. Also, do you think this is any coincidence at all that he makes these comments right before he's about to play Clemson?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like
it's just quinky dink.
I feel like there's always strategy to what he says, because the innuendos he drops and the things such as that. But I don't know. I mean, there's definitely probably like he'll pass off as, oh, that's a coincidence. But
I'm so tired of the talk about NIL and the talk about the portal and all the complaining. Let's go play football. My team versus your team. Line it up.
It's kind of fire.
I mean, he's like 6 months from playing Clemson.
That's what I was about to say. It's freaking May. It's not even June.
But
or
I feel like
July.
Dabo would give the same quote as well. So do you think Dabo Swinney wants to talk about the transfer portal?
First of all, I don't think Dabo's ever been this quick and concise. I mean, this is the quote, right?
Yeah,
let's play football. That was the quote. It was the whole quote.
Paul Feinbaum even said, I think that's a great way to wrap things up right there.
Yeah. Like, we got to take 5 minutes to cook Tyler from Spartanburg. I mean, we got to take his whole family heritage and tree out when we kill Tyler from Spartanburg. The greatest, or one of the best attributes about Kirby is that he can say what he wants to say right there, concise and tight. He doesn't have to dance around it, and doesn't get misquoted this way. When you take 9 minutes to explain your real complaint, you get misquoted. Like we talked about with Clemson. The quotes today, or the quotes last week from Clemson, were none of the transfer portal players are good enough to play for us. That was the headline quote. That was not hardly at all what he said. That's what he led with. And then he went to this 3-tier system of what actual transfer portal players are available and why it is that they are not taking those guys. Just didn't have to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a testament to how good and how polar opposite those two are on the mic. Kirby Smart will give you a quote, give you one sentence, and that will tell you everything that needs to be said. Whereas Dabo Swinney, like even a few years ago, when the whole, if players start getting paid, I'll retire. Like, that wasn't the quote, obviously, but that's essentially what he said in a 5-sentence paragraph.
I mean, he did go on and say that he obviously doesn't like it. Yeah, I don't think he said that verbatim, but he said, but we also want people to know it's okay to grind it out where you are, to fight through the tough times. And not to get all holier than thou or like high horse, this generation, a bunch of quitters. But the reality is, like, there is value in being told you're not good enough where you are and then working to become good enough where you are. It's going to teach you a lot of life lessons, to be honest with you. That whole grow where you're planted, shit kind of matters, because you're not just going to be able to walk away from every challenge that you want for an easier challenge. It's not really how life presents itself to most people. What you giggling about?
I'm having fun with the chat.
You made it funny? All right, let's talk about, when will the media ever figure it out? Was it 76th and 97th?
Yeah.
Was that what it was? Those are the two numbers?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of top 100 lists coming out lately because it's the off season and we ain't got shit to talk about. A lot of top 100 lists coming out of college football players. Top 100 college football players in college football 2024 season, yada, yada, yada. Michael Williams on one of those, I think it was On 3 or one of the major companies, ranked Michael Williams 76th. Another 97th. 97th. And I'm sitting here like, that's wild to me. And I know why. National media getting tabbed with, hey, give me your 100 best players. I know what I would do. Real freaking quick. I start Googling best players in college football. That's what I would do. I would start Googling best players for college football, and then I start Googling stat leaders, the statistical this. And, this guy had 1,500 yards receiving. This guy threw for 4,000. This guy had 4.5 sacks. This guy had 7.5 sacks. I don't know shit about none of these guys, but I guarantee 7.5 sack guy better than 4.5 sack guy. That's how these lists work, I would imagine, because they damn sure aren't watching film. Because if they were watching film on Georgia football players, they would know that sack production is bullshit at the University of Georgia. It doesn't mean anything. You know how I know? We got the history right here for you. 2023, Jalen Walker led the team in sacks. 2022, Michael Williams led the team in sacks. 2021, Robert Beal led the team in sacks. Azeez Ojulari, 2 years in a row, 20 and 19. DeAndre Walker led the team in sacks in 2018. Roquan Smith led the team in sacks in 2017. Fun fact, the University of Georgia has placed six defensive players from the front six, meaning defensive line, linebackers, guys who get after the quarterback. 6 players from that 2 units in the first round of the NFL draft in the last 3 years. 6 players, 3 years, first round draft picks. Do you know how many of those players, gentlemen? Those 6 players, they all played near the line of scrimmage. Do you know how many of those first round draft picks led the team in sacks?
1.
0 players drafted in the first round over the last 3 years. 6 of them led the team in sacks. The NFL gets it. The NFL drafted Trayvon Walker number 1 overall with 4.5 sacks.
I think it's 6.5.
Total in 1 year or total?
It may have been total.
Yeah, might have been career sacks. Okay, it just doesn't happen. The individual stat production and sack production, I should say, at the University of Georgia just does not happen. This is not a stat padding bunch. It never has been. It is a collective rush unit. They will have more players with 3.5 or more sacks than anybody else in the country this year. I guarantee it. I bet they have 14 players on their roster this year that have more than 3.5 sacks, but they probably don't have 1 player on the roster with more than 10. What do you got for me?
It was 6 sacks in his final season.
Okay, so not a ton of production, but a good amount of production. First round draft pick, number 1 overall. And again, I am not surprised to see that the national college football media isn't aware of this. I'm also not surprised to see the NFL community doesn't care about stat production, because they shouldn't. They know the NFL watches tape, and the tape says Michael Williams, top 20 player in the NFL draft coming up, despite how many sacks he has this year. It doesn't really matter. Okay, he could have 3.5 sacks, he could be a top 20 player. He could have 8.5 sacks, he'll be a top 5 player. It doesn't really matter. The NFL mock draft database right now has Michael Williams 16th overall. When are they going to figure it out, boys?
I don't know.
I mean, it seems like it's almost an oversaturation of people that just look like, we got to find stats. To the point where every year we get this one person on the defensive side who's drafted where it's, why did they take him? He had 4.5 sacks this year. This is who we're taking in the first round. It makes no sense. The production wasn't there. I don't get it. And I don't know if it's ever going to change either.
Here's what ended it for me. And I was one of these guys too. Like a little stat production slave every once in a while. The Ufe kid that got drafted out of Penn State a couple years ago by the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I don't know what he did year 2. But year 1, he led the damn league in sacks as a rookie after having, I think, 0 sacks his last year at Penn State. So, yeah, this whole idea of statistical production, to me, it matters, but it does not, particularly when I turn the film on. When you turn the film on of Georgia's defense the last 3 years, it takes you like 3 plays to go, hey, who in the hell is 13? And when's he going to get up on Sundays? Because this kid is nuts. Oh, third down, he got double teamed. Yeah, he didn't get a sack. He didn't. But watch first down, because he damn near caves the left tackle's face in and then makes a +1 tackle. So, no, it wasn't a TFL. but it created a 2nd and 9, which turned into a 3rd and 12, which got us the hell off the field because Mykel Williams can't be ran at on 1st down. He's Jadeveon Clowney. And for those of you who say, well, Jadeveon Clowney was a bust. No, the hell he was not. Jadeveon Clowney was the best run defensive end in the league for like 7 years, apart from J.J. Watt, who's a pretty damn good football player. But no, it's so funny that people look at Jadeveon and they're like, oh, he's a bust. How dare Brooks even compare Mykel to that? Nah, dude, the run production of these two guys is unmatched. And it does matter because no matter how much air raid tendencies come into the game of football, people are still running it half of the downs, and you still got to be able to stop the run. Any thoughts, comments, concerns?
No, I think you hit that segment right on the head.
I'm glad to be back, boys.
We're glad to have you back.
I'm glad to be back. It definitely enhanced my mood. I'm gonna be a little sissy here. I'm gonna talk about this because it's been on my heart like the last 2 weeks, hell, since my son's been born. If you are a father, okay, and you have a son, particularly a male son, okay, call him, tell him you love him, call him, tell you you're proud of him, because something about us men. That affirmation of I'm proud of the work that you are doing and I'm proud and I love you, we don't hear it enough. We don't at all. And sometimes it really, really messes with us as we get older, as we get established, as we think we're doing really, really good in our life. Sometimes it would really help if our pops just picked up the phone and said, hey, man, I love you. I'm proud of the work you're doing. So if you have a son today, I don't care how old he is. I don't care if he's 2, 3, 4. I don't care if he's 34. Call him, tell him you love him, tell him you're proud of him. See you. Bye.